So I'm going to start. First of all, my name is Andre Pereira, and I'm speaking from Brazil. And I would like to thank the opportunity to be here and the very nice support of the organizers to present this to this moment. Today's presentation is named Pharmacopollution and Household Waste Medicine, an Applied Field. It's mainly supported by the study published in the Environmental Science and Pollution Research, an article named Pharmacopollution and Household Waste Medicine, How Reverse Logistics in Environmentally Important Brazil, that presents a systematic review about this phenomenon of pharmacopollution or the pollution.
Hello, excuse me, sir, please put it into a full screen because it's not shown in full screen. Kindly.
Oh, just a second.
Okay.
Okay. It's correct
Yes, sir.
now?
Yes, correct. Okay, thank you. Thank you so
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it is based on this article from Environmental Science and Pollution Research that was a systematic review and applied research using Brazil as a background to explain how pharmacopollution is a phenomenon and how it's related to the medicines we have at home and how our use and how our leftovers produce pharmacopollution. The waste medicine and healthcare waste are part of the emerging contaminants in these studies, and it's not a group isolated. The emerging contaminants includes steroids, personal care products, pharmaceuticals, as the case we are speaking here, industrial chemicals, and pesticides. And those kind of pollutants are well known for this, how recently they are impacting our society. Some studies, including the emerging contaminants, encompass the household micropollutants or the pollutants that come from our houses. And we have the mainly the PPCP, the metabolites and EDCs, illicit drugs, and trace organic contaminants. And many of the studies present pharmaceutical pollution combined with one of them because they are present in the sewage and water, as we will see further. And the study fields encompasses three main points. The first one is the active pharmaceutical ingredients and how they spread in the environments and other spaces. The pharmacopollution effects in the environment and the animals once we use pharmaceuticals and we do the excretion and the leftovers spread over the environment. And the wide use of medicines, the cases of accidental ingestion, and our dependency to the medicines in our contemporary society. Here we have a map explaining how pharmacopollution is presenting all over the world. You can see at the pink points the presence of pharmaceutical active ingredients in the sewage. The blue dots are the surface water contamination, and the orange points are tap water presence of pharmaceutical traces. And the green ones are the underground water contamination. When we check this study, occurrence of pharmaceutical compounds and urban wastewater, we can see many cases of savage animals that present traces of pharmaceutical ingredients and how they are affected by them. We have the cases of the goldfish that exposed to fluoxetine, they decrease the food intake and the weight growth. Fluoxetine affects the diurnal egg production, and the estrogen provokes this masculinization of rosy red minor and many other cases. And it's very interesting to point out the white rampant culture in India, that the population decreased to 95%, and Oaks et al. Related it to diclofenac in the environment. So once the population are growing, once the use of medicines are also growing, we expect more cases of pharmacopollution. And this phenomenon has two household-related source pathways. The first one is the active pharmaceutical ingredients we excrete during our treatment. And it's not the purpose of this presentation. The second one pathway, it's the leftovers we throw out in the toilet sinks and litter. And that ones, especially in Brazil, have a very high environmental and savage animals effects. But what is those leftovers, how they are generated? In a very perfect situation, we have the rational use, where the patient receives the just right amount to his treatment, and you have no leftovers. But in many cases, as we will see further, many of the amount of the medicines a household patient receives are over the necessity. So it leads to leftovers. Many reasons leads to those leftovers, those pharmaceutical waste. The first one is the non-adherence and non-compliance to the treatment. So the patients receive the medicines and do not use as prescribed. The therapeutic obsolescence, the improvement of clinical state, so the patient is not required to keep using the medicine. Suspension, interruption, and intolerance that also leads to suspension of the treatment. And the most important situation in Brazil, and I think it's the very common situation and in many other developing countries, is the packages with greater quantities than prescribed. And I have a very simple example here that often happens in Brazil when you need to use antibiotic for 14 days and you only have in market the option to buy 20. So once you need 14, you already have 6 or left over, and probably it will be discarded in the sewage, in the sink, or any undesired waste. In this figure, we can see that pharmacopollution is a coalescence phenomenon, and we have 3 other sources of pharmacopollution, that is livestock and aquaculture, the pharmaceutical industry, and healthcare facilities such as hospitals. But as the literature presents us, we are not the main source. The main source are the household. Once you throw it in undesired destinations. The best way to deliver, to discard the leftovers are take-back programs where you can return them to the pharmacy. The not so good option are in the proper landfills. But in developing countries such as Brazil, you have rubbish dumps and wastelands that are not prepared to receive them. And we can see in many of the articles and the studies, many of the medicines are left at home forgotten, and representing risk for child, the elderly, and pets. And in many situations, you also have a donation of leftovers. In this study, disposal practice for unused medications around the world, we can see that littering is the main destination for those leftovers. And in Brazil and the US, we have the prevalence of littering and the discard in the sink or toilet. In the opposite situation is Europe, where you have Sweden, United Kingdom, and Germany with higher rates of return. And it's very interesting to see Kuwait and New Zealand with about 80% and 97% of littering. And many problems related to pharmacopollution and those leftovers are the resistance of antibiotics. Many authors do a parallel between the resistance of bacteria in the sewage effluents related to the discard of antibiotics. As we can see in the literature, hospital and other healthcare facilities are not the main antibiotics source of those discard in the environment. The population in Germany and US, according to Bess et al., are responsible for 75% of those discharges. And in France, 25% of the use of antibiotics are done by hospital, but only 13.8% of the sewage discharge are caused by them. So if we do not focus on the household as a main pollution source of this phenomenon, we could not handle that. During my studies, we did a take-back program in a medium scale. In the healthcare, public healthcare of Brazil is where I am a researcher. We took 1,200 patients of asthma, dyslipidemia, and COPD, and we split them in two groups by city. The first city was Betim, with 58 patients, and Contagem with 52. We did a take-back program at Betim, and we did nothing at Contagem, and we compared the results. The program delivered medicines by the public service to this public using models, as you can see in the picture. And the communication with the patients were done through call center. And we use those channels to deliver a flyer. And we train those deliver people to explain how was the phenomenon and how it affects them and how they could do to decrease the effects. And increasing awareness show very good results. At Betim, they choose for the best options, such as delivering at the public health system, the leftovers, and not left them at home, or discharge at the sewage, or the toilet and the sink, improved for 39.3%. At Contagem, where we didn't anything, we had a more discrete result. And it shows that if the patient is aware of the phenomena and how their personal habits contributes for this, may result in a change of habits in order to choose best destination options. In Brazil, it's a very interesting case because Brazil is the fourth biggest pharmaceutical market. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization recommends one pharmacy to 10,000 people. In Brazil, we have 3.3. Here in Brazil, it's really, really easy to buy medicines of many types. And that's why I explain we are a so huge pharmaceutical market. And our generation is about 56.6 grams per capita year and 10 tons by year. And it's bigger than developed countries such as Germany, Spain, and France. Part of my study was in Germany, And it was very interesting to see that Germany, it's a very richer country than Brazil. They spend less medicines than us. At the same time, we have many people that do not have access to medicines. At the same time, a lot of waste. It's a very contradictory reality. During the study, we did not have a national take-back program, but this reality changed by 5 June 2020, when was established a new law where all the pharmacies must need to have a place to collect the medicines. And many people worked hard for that, especially because we have many water bodies that were vulnerable to those kind of phenomena. And we will present in the next seminars the results of this implementation. And we are very glad that as following the examples of developed countries, Brazil established a reverse logistic system for medicines, and is run by the private pharmacies, because at the public services system that also deliver medicines, we have a double system here, a public system and a private system. The public system already have a take-back program, but the private system no. But since June 5 of 2020, Brazil have a system for the private pharmacies. All of these studies was an opportunity to huge literature published about the results and how awareness is as important as the reverse logistics system to the people, because many places invest just in have the collecting point and the reverse logistics system, but do not invest in the increasing of awareness. And this is it. As a final message, I would like to beg everyone that are watching this presentation to return your medicines to the pharmacy in the right places, so we can provide a better environment and reduce the chances of contamination of the environment and the animals by the active pharmaceutical ingredients discharged. And never use the toilet, the sink, or the wastelands or dumps to discharge your household medicines. I would like to again thank the organization of this seminar and the very kind support of the team